Strength of America podcast.
Oh, God, that energy drink is messing
All
me
right,
up a
welcome to
little bit.
episode 20 of the SOA podcast. Bob Davis
Bobby Davis.
and
Mitch Wyatt.
Hey.
there you go, Mitch in for us. We're doing a special episode today. I want to talk a little bit about, for the strength coaches. And I can tell you that the years we worked with interns, coaches, people kind of getting involved in training, there's nothing that beats practical experience. So that's what we thought. Mitch coming out, recently graduated. He was wrestled with Bobby, Colorado Mesa University, strength and conditioning coach now over at school. We're going to let him tell you a little bit about his school and what he's doing, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the why and how much the education, what kind of you would have been nice to learn, and what he picked up with it. So, where are you actually coaching now?
I'm coaching over at theSOAP in Colorado. It's this little small town. It's in between Glenwood and Aspen up there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice country. Came down to Arizona so we could warm up. Actually, we're getting ready to road trip to the Athletes Acceleration Speed Summit.
Complete speed and power. Yep.
Laverne,
California.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
we're gonna cool off a little bit and have some little fun education stuff going out there too. So cool.
Yeah.
So now you're teaching as well, strength coaching? What all are you doing there at school?
Yeah, so I serve a multitude of roles up there right now. I'm 8th grade science teacher, wrestling coach, middle school football coach. We just finished up a high school and middle school season. And so now I can really focus on the youth camps that we're running up there.
Cool.
And so with those coaches, I'm working with them to develop strength and conditioning programs for all the kids up there. So hopefully trying to get the school funded. But right now I'm running through the side business, Hurricane
Cool.
Strength and Conditioning.
Cool. Now, did they have strength and conditioning program at the school before you got in?
No, they don't have anything up there right now. They just got rid of their classes for it at the high school. They have a weight room, but it's sitting there right now. And then, nothing to speak of right now.
Okay.
And the middle school, he was saying he actually created. So he got some equipment, created a room and all that, and
That's cool.
cleared stuff out. So how was that process? What was it like when you got there? What was the room before you got there?
Yeah, I'll have to send you guys some pictures of that because it was something else. It was above storage unit above the wrestling room, and it had about an inch of construction dust on the ground. And there was just random boxes just scattered everywhere, and they're stacked about 5 to 6 boxes high. And so what we had to do was pull out all the boxes, sweep, demo all the current storage rooms, and then make it just a blank unit. And then we put up storage units on this far wall to reorganize all the storage units. And then thankfully there was a CrossFit box that went downsized, and they kind of went under and they traded hands with the business. So they had a bunch of stall mats and all this extra equipment that was homemade that they just donated to us.
Right.
And so something that would have been around $20,000 worth of equipment was just donated to us. And so that's the benefit of being in a small community where people genuinely care about one another, and they have ties. The guy that his business that he's sold it to, he used to be an assistant coach for wrestling. And so he had ties to the wrestling program, and so it just really helped out everyone. So
Right.
It was a great situation.
That's where getting in with schools, especially starting like that, is great because you'll learn so much. Like I tell you, at Nebraska, it was awesome because while I was there with conditioning, you pretty much just asked for it and you got it. You got things handled to it. You had an incredible room. And then when I went to do some volunteer, part of our time was we worked with athletic training and strength coaching in local schools around the area. And you got to be creative. You got to figure things out. So you don't always have all these different machines. You've got to make some things do. Like I said, some homemade stuff. As long as first you make sure wells are good. I don't want anything falling apart. But yeah, you get stuff in there that's sturdy. You just get creative, man. You can do some great things. And that's what holds, I think, a lot of people back. They think they have to have this elite gym, this whole thing, all these things to make it happen. And really, you just have to be a creative and know what your system is in the program. So if you get a base system, you get some dumbbells, some medicine balls, or, I think the old days you'd even use basketballs that we'd fill and put heavy stuff in or fill with sand and do things. You could, get creative to work in. It was great because then you also didn't have a nice, solid, balanced ball. You got to work a little bit more core stuff with it. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
I think we're almost, in a sense, pretty blessed with the situations. I feel like it's, especially when we came from, our high school, Red Mountain, had weight rooms and stuff like that. It was just kind of normal. But no, when we went up to CMU and they had that old weight room, and then they got the remodel where it was huge and it was this beautiful thing. They had all this nice equipment, turf, fancy, and then you kind of get brought down. I know when I got back to Chandler Prep. Luckily, they actually had a room and they had some equipment. It was more like a mini-sized commercial gym with like lots of different stuff rather than your old staple like racks and platforms and stuff like that. But it was cool, I think, in my experience, to really learn and have the chance to make the room my own and sell some of their stuff, get different stuff we needed, or buy through our camps and stuff that we do, and have the opportunity to give the kids a chance. I mean, and right now, developing a culture and stuff like that is really cool. And I think, we may be at these places for a long time, so we get the opportunity to make it our own. And, if something happens that we're not blessed to be able to be at where we're at anymore, we have the opportunity to really know what it was like to start from not much of anything and create something. So I think it's a great experience in a sense. It doesn't seem like it when you start, but it's really a cool experience to kind of make it your own and figure out how to do things. And now, like in school, they just go through X's of O's. These are sets, these are reps, this is what you need for power, strength, hypertrophy, that simple old adage of stuff. And then you realize when you go there and you're like, okay, I don't have a lot of funds. I got to figure out how to fundraise a little bit, or how to run camp so I can get some money for some equipment. I got to figure out how to start marketing. Luckily, I have this awesome guy, so he does some of that for me, so it helps me out on that. But he's really been able to show me the ropes through him learning. So luckily, I've had a little smoother pace, but still, you start to realize that, if there's no culture, you got to create it somehow, and you got to create the room, and you really got to. It's not just a walk in the door and all right, now here's your program, we're just coaching, that's all we have to worry about. So tell me a little bit, what all do you have to worry about, because it's not just walking in and coaching, right?
Yeah, it's I think the thing I struggle with the most is the level of buy-in with the youth today. And that's kind of funny to say because I'm not that old. It's like the youth today, I'm still part of the youth, like I'm still in that.
But I mean, I feel like even at our age, it was a little different, I don't know.
I think it has to do with kind of both of our upbringings. We were taught to just work hard, and like it didn't matter what the task was, you did it to your best ability. Now you have to explain why, and then not only that, but you have to be
you almost have to find a way to engage them, huh?
You do. You have to be a whole nother level of a coach. Then you have to think of the social aspect of it. You have to know their background. You have to have a lot of
some
time
rapport
invested into them. You have to generally care about your athletes. You can't. It's not just a plug and chug system. You have to know each individual athlete, what they need, where they came from, to get that level of buy-in where they produce the results that they need to be competitive or even healthy in that certain area.
So it's almost like a whole roadmap ahead to where before you almost even get to the start line of starting the workout, there's all this groundwork you got to lay just before you can get it. Because obviously, I mean, we know if you lay out a program and they go through, I mean, you may have some kids that sneak by or they just don't still buy in and they're doing the same things or let's say the same weight on something for 8 weeks and you're like, it's tough. It's just trying to figure out how to get to each one of them and try to drive them to have fun with it. It's almost sad that you have to drive it to be fun because really work's not that much fun, but the results are fun of it. So, but it's a tough deal.
Testing and stuff with the kids too, or what?
We do every beginning of our camps. We do pre-testing, just standard like push-ups, pull-ups. We do vertical, broad jumps, but we don't do any weighted movements. We don't do like max squat or anything like that. Most of these camps are geared towards movement prep and just getting them to be educated on what does a good squat look like, what does a good deadlift look like, things to be looking for if you're working out by yourself with another person, like if their back is rounded, you tell them no lift on deadlifts, like basic weight room procedures like that to keep kids healthy in the long run. That with jumps, like we're looking at knees rolling in and just proper landing technique too with that. So those things are pretty baseline, but I mean, as you guys know, there's a ton of movement that you have to be looking at in order for kids to be healthy in the long run. If you don't correct that stuff and you just keep on putting them through it, it's a bad deal. It's a real bad deal.
Well, that's good. It's good to hear because as we've gone around the clinics, and of course now from my 30 plus years doing this stuff, even from my time at Nebraska, I was part of the NSCA where I was working with the state director. We'd go to the schools and talk about conditioning and what to do. They understand the power is important, the strength is important, all of that. But there was a period of time that it was all about your power, your strength, all that didn't matter. And I didn't hear anybody talking about, the system or how you set it up and go. Yes, the sets, the reps, all the things you need to do, but the mechanics of it, we didn't talk about near enough. Now, as I'm getting the last couple of years, Bobby and I have been going around listening to some of the different speakers and pulling things up. It's so nice to hear them say, look, it's about the system and the base. You've got to get that base down first. They learn how to squat. They learn how to jump, land, movement. Then it flows in. It's so much easier. They're going to be much safer going in. Just like our kids we have coming in high school, they do our camps in the summer, may not train with us because they're from an outside school, but they, we want to know, what do you squat? What do you do? They've got you these numbers and you already doubt that they're using that much. And when you test them, you already realize, well, I've got to knock that off because their mechanics are wrong. Their hips are in, their knees are rolled in. I'm rolling off the feet to the inside. We've got to fix those mechanics. And then by the time they leave you, their weight's beyond where they started, or where they thought they were starting, because they thought it was a lot heavier than that. But now you've given them that base, so now they're safer, they're more productive, they're going to be even stronger and more powerful. And the more you can do the testing, like our speed and agility, that's one that's always worked, I think, well for us, is when we do the testing, those kids want to do it at the time, and at the time they'll work hard when it's time to test, but there's some of them that won't work as hard during camp time, and then are disappointed they don't have better scores at the end. So that's why we've always done averages also. So they not only see where they did on their testing sheet, where their pre and post scores were, but we let them see what the average of that group was. So they see the average of the group over that summer camp was a 3-inch vertical jump, and they went up a half an inch. The average is 3 inches. Those kids even got better than that. That means it just was all about effort too at that point.
Yeah.
And that has to happen. But that's their feedback. Or some love to jump, so every jumping drill they do, they're putting all they got into the camp. But they don't like to run, or they're changing direction. They haven't got the basics of the plant and movement. So that helps, because you can see all these little things in testings, compare it with the average, and it helps them realize, oh, wow, I need to step it up or do this. So that's cool.
Definitely. That's great. Yeah. I think it goes right back into that buy-in, because it's funny, and you will see things like that where certain kids will really push on one and then not so much in the other, and they're almost like frustrated. It's like, well, if you don't put all your effort into it, it's not really going to get better. So I think that's where it's good. You almost get because you have to nowadays, and you got to adapt, and you got to realize that, like, when you're going through, you got to find a way to make them tick. But I think it's really good for them to realize too that if they don't succeed at something or get better, that they need that to show them that, hey, you didn't get better because you didn't put the effort in. And I think that's just a part of growing up and sports, and then all that we're doing. So I think they need that. They can't just consistently be like, it's all right, you did real good on this one, we'll just get better next time on that one. Maybe if they put all out effort, they get better, or they did not get better on something, okay, we go back and look at things, and that's when we bring that up. But I mean, we got to make sure that as we're going, that if they didn't put the effort, they got to realize that, so they can try to correct it and get better on that next time.
Yep.
So
yeah, you definitely have to get them to grow on their ownership of what it's all about. That's the beautiful thing about weightlifting and these programs that we make for them, is that in sports you can sometimes hide that. Be like, well, okay, the coach doesn't like me, or oh, that ref he blew the match for me, or whatever, or like, oh, my team sucks, so we're all together bad. But when it comes to the weight room, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And so that's the beautiful thing about pre and post testing, is like,
it's pretty black and white, huh?
Just like in the classroom, like you take a pre-test and you don't do any homework and you don't show up to class, you're not going to probably do very good on that post assessment. Yeah. Same thing in the weight room. It's very transparent.
That's awesome. Things you can see as you get more involved in parents and stuff too, as you're getting in, you can see, and how many of you actually, the other kids are involved in it, they're signed up for strength training, they're doing speed work, they're doing stuff going on. But how many of your parents actually take the time to get to meet the coaches and see what the system is and what's going on? We can see at the younger age with the sports, the parents are there a lot, and then after a while they drop them off, they move, and they don't really get involved. I can tell you that, like with Mitch, it's been great, and watch Bobby, of course, through the years develop and things go on, that they're always, they're not looking like they've got the answers already. They're continually looking, and we have to. After all these years, we're continually looking. I had a great conversation with a coach a couple of weeks ago, and about his football team, about redoing some things and adjusting and getting into it. And one of the things he brought, and I can call this out because it's okay, he brought up the monsoon football players that we work with. And he was saying, we wanted to make sure we played them. We knew they were tough teams, stuff going on to it. But we didn't realize how well they executed the things they did. And it wasn't necessarily that they had the best athletes out there on the field, but these kids knew what they were doing. They bought into the system. The parents bought into the system. They trusted what the coaches were doing, but they'd still ask, and they wanted to know what was going on. But those coaches did what they could to help those kids get the best out of them, figure out weak and strong points, help them get different positions to move and learn more about it. And that's what this coach wanted to do. They knew he was going into it. It was going to be a tough game. Well, he said they got crushed. But he learned so much by it. He wanted to learn more from these coaches. on how they develop that system and build their coaches and their staff, because it was more than just playing football. They had these kids bought into the system of what to do, how to prepare for it, what to do with work. They knew what they needed to do, and they were doing beyond that the Monsoons were so excited because every time he talks to these kids, the coaches do, it's about not only the practice, but what are you doing at home? What are you doing for your parents? What is this thing? And they want to know every week, what did you guys do for somebody else in the community?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those kind of things to help build, and that brings that family together, and they were stronger. And I thought it was exciting because the coach wanted to go back and play them again. And not just to beat them, they wanted to keep seeing how they work. And those kids on his team were seeing it as well as his coaches. Man, that Monsoon is something. And again, we work with a lot of teams that have that as well. It's great. But, this was just a great coach from outside, bringing that in and bringing up this other team on what they do, and that buy-in was awesome because they all played football. They all did practice. They did things. But those kids were solid start to finish. And again, not the fastest, not the biggest, but they knew how to move and what to do and how to execute and depend on each other. So they knew if they had something that happened, somebody else would pick that up, and they kept going. So
I think that's great. That's like, I think we go back to that. I think especially being a young coach, there's so much information out there. Sometimes it can be easy to try something else, try something else out. And there's a lot of fancy different things going on. But then you almost realize, as you especially listen to people that have been around for a while, the old saying, do the simple things savagely well. If you can execute the basics, and you hear this all the time from, even high level NFL coaches, different things going on. It's always, hammer the basics. Okay, do the simple things well, be consistent. And I think that's what we got to realize sometimes. And I have to realize sometimes because, you do want to experiment, and that's part of growing up as a coach and seeing what works. Or you found this information, let's plug it in, see if it pans out or not. Okay, if not, you grow and get better. Okay, fail forward there. But you also got to realize that we got to cover our simple things and be really consistent at them. If you can go back to that buy-in, you can create that buy-in through your team and your family, okay, your community, your athletes, your coaches, and all that. Man, if you just have that buy-in and now you just put the simple things in front of them and be consistent at them, it's like, man, people will run through a wall for you. They'll do whatever. So, I think that's just where I could have some fancy, crazy program for some kid, another kid that just is consistent, respectful, holds himself accountable, something very simple here. He's probably going to get way better than that other kid. So, it's just bringing it back and thinking about that because there's so much out there,
Sure.
It's crazy. It's a blessing and a curse, in all honesty. Especially when these kids see social media, they see some crazy stuff, want to try it. So it's tough. It's tough to go back and forth.
The biggest thing, just for any of our young coaches or people going into it, is just understand there's a lot of things going on. I don't know how much I know. Finishing in Nebraska, it's one of the things that I noticed were buddies of mine that were finishing school, that were going into the same profession. They weren't even close to prepared because they didn't put the internship, they didn't get the time, and they didn't know. They just thought they were ready to go. But we also know most of our schooling doesn't even touch on the end of business. So business and marketing and bookwork and rental and all these different things that go into
relationships, how to work with people.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Bobby's even talked about these things. You get done with school, the first thing every one of us want to do is have our own facility. Well, yeah, that sounds great.
How do you run it? How do you pay for it?
You got to look at the system. Everybody wants it because we do.
It's
you look
cool.
at all that, and it looks cool. You got all that, but you walk out now. You got $4,000 to $6,000 dollars a month for overhead before anything happens. And you've got to market. It's not just posting a video and boom, it's viral. You've got 1.5 million people on it, and you get them to do it. Although, like and share it, maybe we can get that pumped up.
Cheap plug.
But start with the basics. Look at those things. Getting the systems and getting out. I think maybe we could talk a little bit more of that in another one too about, what are the steps, what are the processes for those young coaches, and what do you do? But like you're learning, you're doing the right thing. You're going into the school, you're getting those set, you're starting your own on the side to get that going as well, and it works hand in hand. But the more we do to help these kids and get that, it helps you, empower you to give you the energy to keep going. The team's retired. Last night I was beat. We're getting ready to go to this conference, and we got things going on. And I get this phone call out of the blue from a parent. We just started with a young group of basketball players over at the schools who are out over at Lincoln Prep, and she was just nice, sincere, happy, excited, appreciated the time. We were helping her son with things going on, and her son during the conversation, I can hear him in the back room. I want to say something. He gets on the phone, and he's a young little guy, but he's happy, about going through and learning my performance. I'm learning to create power. I'm doing, it's just exciting little things. And you see her excitement in him. That's awesome. Boom, I had more energy. We were good to go. I wasn't tired anymore. And that's what we're doing this for. All this thing, we want to help these kids. And number one for me has always been like these guys, I want to keep them safe. Let's give them the right. We all want speed. We all want power. We want them strong, powerful athletes to win. All that's great. But we want them healthy. You want them to hit that 50 range, like I'm close to the 50 range.
Ahead of
It
that.
don't hurt in the morning. We get up and we feel good. And, that's what I'd like. If those kids 30, 40 years later go, yeah, man, my knees feel pretty good, Bob. Thanks. We've got on the right track.
Yeah.
Then we've done our job. That's what we want. You get all those other things along the way. That's great. We just want them healthy. So that's cool.
Great.
Mitch, appreciate you coming out.
Yeah,
It's exciting. Glad to have you in.
Good
Good luck
stuff,
with all
man.
the
Good
stuff
stuff.
going on up in Colorado. That's great. We're going to have some different spots and things as well. Like I said, we're getting ready to head out just a few minutes out to California and the Athletes Acceleration Camp going on. And it's going to be a great speed summit. So we'll have different pics, things going on Instagram as well. And excited. We've got a guest that's going to come on. We'll do the podcast with as well. And we'll let you know about him as well. Probably jump it in on Instagram ahead of time, give you a sneak peek. But we're excited.
Yeah, stay tuned. Good stuff to come.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Like it, share it. Make sure you're part of the YouTube page. Hit the bell as well as the subscribe so you'll get all the videos because we're going to start putting a lot more going into it. And we're going to be announcing pretty soon our football speed program that we'll be giving out to you guys for free as well.
Yeah.
Help get them ready to go.
Stay tuned. Definitely, if you're on YouTube, click that little bell so you can get the notifications. It's so easy. It goes to my email, all that, because it's pretty easy nowadays with how YouTube is to miss stuff. So hit that bell, comes up. You can check some of this stuff out. So
Great.
All
And
right.
let us know any things you want to see. Upcoming videos as well. We'll put them out. All right. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the weekend. Keep moving. See you next time.
see you next time.